Let's get to that in 1 second. Let me answer the earlier question on when was my mind first shocked, now that I caught up a little bit. So, I think I mentioned this maybe on Q&A 1 or 2, maybe. Or actually probably on maybe on Flat Earth Q&A 1. Um I'm actually going to also go over this and I'm going to be doing a podcast on issues with society, like an encompassing one, but I'll answer here too. So throughout my school years, I noticed, even when I was extremely young, like even in elementary school, there was a certain, like, almost subconsciously, really. I didn't study psychology, obviously, at in first grade, but the teachers are very confident. I mean, even some of the dumbest teachers, they're very confident in, let's say, arithmetic, English grammar. When it comes to some of the science, depending on the chemistry, some of the basic chemistry, they're confident, but some of the more advanced stuff, they're not. But when it comes to some of the science and some of the history, they don't have that confidence. Now, they think they're right, of course, and they're still confident. There's subtleties in the way that they teach and answer questions regarding arithmetic and English grammar versus the other subjects. And I kind of started picking up on that early. Not that I thought they were wrong in any way. I just thought it was a little strange. And year after year, it got worse and worse. And then when certain people would ask, well, how do they know that? And then all the teacher can do is pretty much refer to the text. They don't know how they figured it out. They're just citing what was supposedly figured out, and we're supposed to just take it on faith. Now, again, earlier, younger years, I didn't really think it was wrong. I just thought it was strange that they couldn't confidently answer questions regarding history or science with the same confidence level as arithmetic or English grammar. There was an observable difference in confidence, and I picked up on that pretty early. And then obviously going through later years in high school, when you kind of figure out which teachers are kind of full of it or not. It's just that there was a certain faith level. I think it was actually in 5th grade when the history teacher said, "Well, the victors write the history books." That was a major red flag for my whatever 10 or 11-year-old brain. As soon as the teacher said that, I was like, "Wait a second. But we're learning from the books. We're being tested on the books. We're being told what the books is true, but you just said the victors wrote them. So that means we don't actually know what the real truth is unless we can also find the books written by the losers and the books written by people not involved in the conflict at all." And since we're looking at the books written by the victors, like, that was honestly, that might have been major red flag number 1. That might have been it. Because in the book itself, we're talking about the history books written by the victors while reading the book written by the victors. So, I would say between that and then picking up the subtleties of the lack of in confidence of teachers being able to answer non-math or English grammar based questions in the other subjects, and then it just got worse year after year after year. And I think also subconsciously I picked up there's a certain level of desperation that everybody has. Like all of the NPCs trying to keep the Matrix together, the agents of the Matrix. It's like those enslaved by the Matrix, the Mr. Smith effect, of course, where they become agents of the Matrix. And I've kind of seen this. Actually, let me put that up on the screen just so we can have that up there while I talk about it. Because this is why I waited till now to answer the question. It was an earlier question, and I'm still in the middle of answering it because it is quite. There's a lot to it. It's not that simple. So honestly, as a kid, it was possibly when I learned that the victors write the history books. That was possibly the first major one. And then obviously, 9/11 was a huge one. But before we get to there, let me bring up Mr. Smith effect. I have some kind of meme here. It's always a good meme somewhere. Okay, so the Mr. Smith effect. in the movie The Matrix, Mr. Smith has the ability to enter any body at any time, and of course, this often occurs when the Matrix is threatened by Neo. The scenario is a reflection of our real world. For example, you're down at the coffee shop having a conversation with a friend, and everything is fine until you mention something like 9/11 was an inside job. Obviously, I'm not stating that. Here on Mindshock, we don't claim anything is true or untrue. I'm just reading a meme right now. Now, watch what happens. Up pops Mr. Smith to replace the person you were just having a conversation with to attack you, because all truths threaten the Matrix. The Matrix programmed into most people in their youth, or ute, as Joe Pesci would say. And because of this Mr. Smith programming, these people become guardians of the Matrix, protectors of the code, police of the mind control, enforcers of the indoctrination, which holds our false concept of reality like glue. So, throughout my formative years, I kind of observed this not just in person. Obviously, I didn't know what I was observing. Obviously, well, not obviously, people don't know how old I am. This may have been before The Matrix came out. But this concept of people just, the concept of people changing because their minds have been programmed. And part of the programming is to protect their belief system, regardless of whether it's true or not. So, Jeffrey says, Bruce is Gen X for sure. Well, Gen X is a pretty wide range. I mean, you know. So, to answer the question of the first Mindshock, so in terms of like a singular event Mindshock, it was probably, as a kid, being told that the victors write the history books in school. That was a big one. And just the gradual, again, the lack of confidence in teachers in subjects, math and English versus all the other subjects, science, history, whatever. I observed that slowly, and it just got worse and worse the more advanced the classes get. And then, of course, comes 9/11. But even before 9/11, so I'm trying to remember if I think I had seen Alex Jones before 9/11. Possibly not David Icke, though. But I was also on a forum. I explained this in the Geocentrism podcast. I was always into science history, and I was pretty heavily into science, although I wasn't a sci-fi nerd. I was one of these people that wasn't into Star Wars or Star Trek. I wasn't into any of the sci-fi. None. Zero. I liked the action movies, as we always talk about. I liked watching the Steven Seagal and the Van Damme and the Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone movies. I was not into the interplanetary space opera crap. I didn't watch any of the documentaries on the solar system, but I just kind of assumed it was true, right? Because that's what people thought. And then once I kind of started, once the internet was getting bigger, I mean, I remember the BBS boards. I mean, that was late 80s, but at the turn of the millennia, so to speak, turn of the century and the millennia, the internet was getting a lot more popular, and there was actually a forum I just happened to stumble upon. I was also kind of a big Tesla fan. Now, at the time, in around 2000, they weren't specifically discussing how it was Tesla versus Einstein. It wasn't Tesla versus Edison was the distraction, even though that was also, you know, obviously a big grift against free energy to deceive the masses. You know, Con Edison could be any more obvious, but anyway, it was really Tesla versus Einstein. It was really relativity versus electromagnetism. And obviously that was all covered up, but starting around 2000, it was beginning to unravel online. And there was a forum, I don't remember the name of it, I didn't save it, a bunch of physics professors, over 200 of them, were geocentrists. They either geocentrist or uncertain on the matter and objectively investigating. Where they were, we were all talking on this forum, and a bunch of them were actual geocentrists. They believed the Earth was a globe, a non-moving. I actually don't remember if they thought the Earth. I believe they thought it was a stationary globe, not a spinning globe. And everything moved around. All the celestial bodies, the sun and the moon, all moved around the Earth, and that was probably the next big mind shock. So my mind was shocked gradually and then also at certain events. Now, 9/11, as it transpired, I know a number of people who were there that day. I heard their reports. I even shared a story. I don't know if you guys did anybody here not hear my 9/11 podcasts? If you want to hear the story, I'll share it again. We'll probably get shut down. But I know a few people that were there, and I didn't put this together until years later because I didn't really. Some of them I actually didn't even talk to. These weren't super close friends or anything. I mean, one of them was, but and this individual is not who the story is about. But this other story was from somebody that was just acquaintance of an acquaintance, and yeah, it was quite a mind shocking story. So yeah, and then I was also into ancient aliens and the Anunnaki. I was a big fan of the X Files, obviously. So I was always into the conspiracy side, the aliens. I really did have to say I bought into the aliens, the interplanetary aliens. Now, obviously, with the flat Earth theory, extraterrestrial, a larger plane. I gotta say, that seems to check a lot more boxes in validity than interplanetary aliens. Again, I do not claim anything is true or untrue. The motto of the podcast, of course, is the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. Yes, Art Bell. I was a big Art Bell fan as well. Okay, Coast to Coast AM, baby. Yes, I have read the Book of Enoch. Okay, so that's pretty much the story of my mind being shocked. It was just gradual observances in school, and then hearing write the history books for the first time, and then the geocentrist forums, then 9/11. And keep in mind, I had been watching a certain amount of Alex Jones without really, I would say, I didn't really take it at face value. Lucky Haskins wants to know the 9/11 story. You haven't seen the 9/11 podcasts? They're on Mindshock.